Hi everybody, welcome back to the Blender feature sculpting series. So this one will obviously be on the mouth and the lips. And I'm using this little sculpture that I did before as a reference, and you can download it. The first comment is the link to the Google Drive with all 4 of these features. And you could also use, if you have a scan or another 3D model that you like, or your own mouth, or pictures. But just be sure that you have all the angles, at least have the front, the side, and upper and lower angles of this. You can see what it looks like from the different angles. Especially this is very important, this kind of upper and lower view. All right, let's get going. So we're going to start off. We're going to bring in a cube. Here we go, a cube. Now I did the nose and the ears in sort of a remeshing kind of workflow. This is not going to be using a remeshing workflow, and I'll explain why while I'm doing it. So I'll shrink this a little bit. First of all, I'll just go back to the regular madcap. There we go. And I'm going to scale this on the Z a little bit, just so it matches somewhat what I have there, and then scale it on the Y a lot, so it's not a massive pluck. All right, very important thing, when you use the sculpting brushes, you do want to definitely apply any changes in scale you've done. So I'm going to do Control A, and I'll definitely put scale. Because if you don't, the brushes act a little bit strange. They don't understand the scale, and so you're getting weird results. All right, let's put some modifiers on this. Basically, we're just going to subdivide it. So let's go on to subdivision surface, and, not decimate, subdivision surface. What am I doing? There we go. Now, of course, if it's set to the Catmull-Clark subdivision, it just collapses the whole thing, but we're not going to do that. We're actually going to give it, I think, 3 levels of regular simple subdivision, and then I'm going to apply it. And if I go into the edit mode, you see it's still pretty low poly. And we're going to fix that. Let's go back there. Now we're going to add a modifier, really just to subdivide it. A couple ways we can do this. We could either add a modifier and choose the subdivision surface modifier and go on to simple, and we'll give it 4 subdivisions and apply it. Now I could have just gone into edit mode, right-clicked, and done subdivide, and it would have been given me the same result. Notice that this is not smooth. This isn't a Catmull-Clark subdivision surface. This is just subdividing it, so it hasn't lost its kind of a blocky shape. All right, and we're going to not remesh it, as I said. We're going to use the edge loops, especially because we really want this center edge loop, this M shape that separates the lips, to be clean. And it's actually a little bit easier to sculpt this with kind of a low poly workflow than it is to do it with a remesh workflow. And you'll see we use remeshing in the last couple of videos, but today we're going to just use a regular sort of, we're going to use the original model and we're going to subdivide it. Okay, let's go to sculpt mode. One thing that's actually helpful in the beginning is to turn on, if I go here to the object properties and I go to viewport display, I can actually turn on the wireframe, even in sculpt mode. And that allows me to sort of see what I'm doing. So because I'm going to be pushing around these vertices in sort of a specific way. Turn on X symmetry. And let's go. I'm going to use a big brush here. I'm going to use the grab brush. And first thing before I do the grab brush, I'm going to press inflate. And I'm just going to basically, I'll turn this off for a second. I'm just going to inflate the sort of center part of this, because I don't want this whole thing to be even starting off flat. I want, my smoothing is much too strong. I'll go to S, no wonder, and put it at about 0.2 or something like that. Go back to inflate. And I'm inflating basically the middle part of it, so I have sort of something more like that. So it's not just a block. And I'm going to take my inflate brush and kind of deflate. I'm going to also kind of decide that the underside of the lip will be here. So I press Control, and I'll pump my strength up a little bit, and I'll deflate this here. Inflate that a little bit. That is going to be sort of where the chin is. This is going to be where the bottom of the lower lip is. Smooth it a tiny bit. And I'm going to keep going with the inflate, and I'm going to sort of outline approximately the lower lip, basically this here. Inflate a bit more. Use my little smaller inflate and go down here where I have the separation of the upper lip. And now the all, inflate that a little bit. And now the all important separation of the lips. I will go to the draw sharp brush for this. And the good thing is that now that we have pushed this out, we can actually see the polygon. So we don't really even need to see the wireframe. You can see it if you want to, if you need to do that, but you don't really need to see it because the polygons are very obvious. I also did not set the shading at smooth shading. For example, if I go back in object mode, I could just do this, shade smooth. But actually I don't want to. I want to keep it in shade flat so I can see the polygons. It's just much easier to choose where I put the draw brush. As you're going to see, I'm going to just push in between at this edge loop. So here, let's say I choose that this will be here. I'll do it here. This will be the edge loop. I'm going to press 2. I'm going to get it quite strong for now. I said it was going to be this one. And I'm literally going to, I know at this point it's very straight because the loop is straight, but I'm going to move it around after. I'm going to make that M shape. Basically, I'm sort of carving in here. Then I'm going to switch to the flatten contrast brush, which I have assigned to 3. And I'm going to use that to basically make a plane here. I'll make it a bit stronger here. See what I'm doing here? I'm basically just making the distinction between the upper and lower lip. The lower lip has sort of a highlight, and the upper lip has a shadow. Now at this point it's very flat, but that's okay because now what I'm going to do is take my grab brush and actually pull the, get the position of the mouth now, get the shape of the mouth, pulling this down, pulling this up a little bit, pulling the center part down to make that kind of Cupid's bow. And then I'm going to pull this down, and I'm going to push the corners in more. See what I'm doing? And I'm going to then go to the bottom here and pull this out, the middle part out, so that there is a curvature. Same thing here. I'm going to just solo this for a second so I can actually see it. And I'm literally pulling out the middle part of the lip so that it's not flat. See? And then I'm pushing in the sides like that so that there is, like I said before, some kind of a curvature. It's not just a flat puck. Smaller brush, pushing the sides in a bit more. Pushing this down. Alright, and now I can take my grab brush and keep using it to get my basic lip shape here. I'm going to go bring back the other one so I can kind of see. And you see what I'm doing basically. I'm sort of sculpting the shadow. And this here, I will move like that. Let me go here. I'm pressing inflate, and you see it's super low poly. But because it's so low poly, it's really easy to kind of get these very blocky shadows. I'm kind of, yeah, it's like I'm drawing it with very simple chiaroscuro, basically highlights and shadows. Okay, I'm using the inflate brush here a little bit. Inflate that, and inflate this because the lip should not go that far back. It should be a bit more straight. The upper lip, I mean. Go to G. Basically, I'm going to be using between inflate and grab. It's really mostly that. And I'm pushing the limits of my low polyness here. All right, let's say that I say this is the limits of what I can do. I'm not going to remesh it, actually. I'm going to actually add a multi-resolution modifier. So this is called multi-resolution. What this allows you to do is to actually keep different levels of subdivision, but sculpt on them as if, you know, using the actual subdivision levels. So now that I can do that, I can do a lot more with the resolution. And I'm not remeshing it. Again, I'm not using the remesh option because it's better for me to have access to this low poly. Because I have that, like those edge loops in the middle that are smooth. Okay, so now I'm just able to be a bit more discerning, and I'm still using the same old inflate brush. I'll use that for a bit, and then I'll switch brushes. I'm inflating this flesh at the sides of the mouth. And I'm just smoothing always. Okay, I'm going back to the draw sharp brush, but this time I'm going to put the strength way down. And I'm going to press Control so I can get sort of more of a ridge for the edge of the lip, for the lower lip, I mean. Smooth it. I'm going to do the same thing here. And adding clay here. So it's draw sharp with Control, with the Control pressed. Oh, sorry, that's supposed to be regular draw sharp. There's a plane change here. There's a sort of a depression here because this section here, yeah, basically in an upper lip, you have a middle section and two side sections. In a lower lip, you basically have 1 and 2. So you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So this is, and the upper lip is usually pretty obvious that there's a big difference between this middle part and the side, the two sides. So I'm just trying to make sure that it's obvious in my sculpture. All right, let's subdivide it one more time. Using the flatten contrast brush to sharpen things up. I just switch to, whenever I press 3, that's the flatten contrast brush. You should look up on here on the screen and you'll see what it is. Or if you see that it says 3, it's flatten contrast. If it says 2, it's draw sharp. And if it says 1, it's regular draw brush. Okay, so it's actually looking all right, pretty good already. Couple things, so let's, no, that's too much. Let's use some clay tubes. If I press 4, I get this brush called clay tubes. I'll show you what it does, and I think I've shown this on other videos. That's the very exaggerated version, making these kind of flat clay shapes. But it's useful if with a low strength, and I have the smooth stroke on. I have this on, stabilized stroke. You don't need it, but I have it. It's just useful for kind of building up forms. You know, it really is like adding clay to a sculpture. So it's kind of nice because you're not just inflating it, you're adding these kind of flat pieces of clay. And if you haven't noticed, as you probably did, I like things to be more flattish and plainer in the beginning of the sculpture. And then I kind of smooth it, as opposed to just making a big blob everywhere. Okay, so let's check this out. We're getting there, and now we can start to see that obviously there's a lot more definition here. And I can do that in several different ways. Here I'm trying with the clay tubes brush. Is that okay? It's okay. I think I need a little bit more resolution here. So let me do one more subdivision level. And now I think I'm just going to try the regular draw brush, I mean. What I want to do is try to get this more of a ridge to this lip here. Yeah, okay, that's working pretty well. And I'm going to press Control and draw like that. So that because the reason I'm doing this is because if you look at your lips now, you'll see that very, very often here between the red part of the lip, the pink or red part, sorry, between the red part or the pink part and the fleshy part, there's often a slight depression. And you see, especially it's hard to see in a lip that has color in it, but having seen a lot of actual life casts, or if you look at scans, you see a ridge of flesh on the outer part, basically right outside of the pink part. And that ridge picks up light and casts a shadow underneath it too. So it looks good when you put this in a sculpture. It gives it that kind of fleshier look. And you have it usually much more obviously on the upper lip here. And it's, you know, usually the people with more full lips, it's even more obvious. You know, so it's this ridge here that I'm talking about. That thing that sort of outlines the lips and the bottom there. And you don't really see it on the sides. It's really more on the middle part of the lips. Okay, I'm just going to chop off the sides here using this line project tool. So let me just hold it there, press F so it's on the right, the proper side. Now maybe I'll chop off a little bit of the bottom, F. Okay, so for the wrinkles, I generally use the Draw Sharp brush with a pretty low strength. And at first, you're not really making wrinkles. You're sort of trying to more just break up the form. Now, normally, I don't make wrinkles with X symmetry because it's not supposed to be symmetrical, like you saw. It shouldn't look like that. But I'm doing it for the sake of this, of speed for the video. I will start off by doing these kind of like larger areas where I'm going to smooth it like crazy after. But I'm doing this, and even maybe a larger brush, in order to just break up the form so that you get more of this kind of these little sections of the lip. And it's much more obvious at the bottom than it is at the top. So I'm kind of smoothing it at the top a little bit. And same thing for the lower lip. Now the middle of the lower lip generally has a pretty obvious depression, and sometimes it's really obvious. And I'll go here like this, and I'll press P for the pinch brush and just kind of pinch that guy together so that it's a bit more of a wrinkle. So it's not too wide. Okay, it's really just for that one. Okay, now for I'll keep going back to the large brush there, large Draw Sharp brush, and that wasn't a good angle. Now you notice, by the way, that I have stabilized stroke on at a very low level. I'll show you it again. 37 and 0.5 or something like that. It's just that it makes it a little bit easier to do these curved lines, and since I am using a mouse for the sake of the class that I'm teaching, normally I use a stylus, like a Wacom tablet, but in this case I'm using a mouse, so getting curved lines is not that easy with this mouse. So having the stabilized stroke is sort of useful to just have it easier to draw less crappy lines. So if it's less crappy lines you're looking for, use a bit of the stabilized stroke. Okay, now I'm going back there and I'm seeing, okay, just to give the lips some fleshiness so it doesn't just look completely flat. Then I might go with the inflate brush. I just pressed I and inflate it a little, sort of between those, just on certain areas between those lip lines that I carved. Again, just to give it some interest. So I hope this video has been useful for you, and it will be very useful when we start to do the actual full head. All right, thanks a lot.